Welcome to All Bound. In today's video, we are putting on some new tires. Well, in this video, I did put on new tires and a new chain and sprocket. As you can see, this thing is filthy because this video is like 3 months old, and this is actually the second set of tires. So you're gonna watch me put on the first set of tires that I've ever done, and it was just a struggle session. So hope you enjoy. Links will be in the description. So starting off with the parts, got the Motoz Tractionator DualVenture front and the Motoz Tractionator Adventure rear. And then I bought a kit from Sprocket Center, and it came with a DID chain that was cut to length, and a 44 tooth rear sprocket and a 16 tooth front sprocket from Superlight. And then some RNG sliders for my axles, and then 3mm tubes from Motoz. So I'll put all the links in the description for that. But getting right into it, popping the brakes off right here, and then taking the axle nuts loose, or the, what do you call those, the pinch bolts. Popping those loose, and then the axle front wheel comes off so much faster than the rear on this thing. I feel like that's one of the most satisfying parts about taking the tire off. But then you just know you got to get it back on, and it's the worst. So like I said, this is the first time I ever done a tire, and it was one of the worst experiences I've ever had working on anything mechanical in my entire life. But the next time around, it was like things just started clicking. I'd been watching a bunch of YouTube videos, and yeah, the next time I threw a set of tires on, it was so much easier. Of course, I didn't record it. I wish I would have. Altogether, this whole process probably took me 8 hours. Not even gonna lie. It was bad. But you gotta learn somehow. So yeah, I just use soap to lube that to pop the tire off. And then when I'm putting it back on, I use baby powder. You can use talcum powder too. Not gonna lie, if you don't know how to change a set of tires, do not watch this video unless you want to know what not to do. I recommend looking up some videos specifically on it and just watch a ton of them. And this method, I tried using the zip tie method, which if you've seen any videos, you know what that is. You basically just cinch down some zip ties with the tube already in the tire to try and squeeze that bead together, and then you just put it on all together. But it was a disaster, and it ended up wasting a ton of time. So here I'm just cleaning the tire off and then throwing some baby powder on the tube. I've heard it's definitely recommended to do that, or else you'll get a bunch of chafing in the tire and end up popping a tube. And I called the lady at Motoz, and she said that you can run these tubes for multiple changes for years. So I guess I'll just have to pay attention to wear. Maybe replace it every couple of years, I'm not sure. But here I'm just throwing the zip ties on. The front tire goes on much easier than the rear. And so I'm pretty sure I was actually able to throw that completely on with the zip ties. I ended up snipping the zip ties off for the rear because it just was not working for me. I don't think I had them tied enough was the issue. So the bead was too far apart. But I found the main issue was when doing this was as you get the tire seated on there, it would like The bead, once you get it to the hard part, which is like right here basically, once you get most of it on, the bead would set on the bottom side of the tire. Like it wouldn't stay in the center. Each wall of the tire wouldn't stay in the center. So it's like the second time around I found was just to continually check all around the tire that you've got each wall of that tire squeezed together, because you need as much room as possible to stretch that thing all the way to the other end. But like I said, the front is easier, but
Bro.
I was still sweating my balls off. Yeah, this video is like 3 months old, so it was dead in the summer. But yeah, aired it up and did the old bounce test, and front wasn't too bad. So the next day I went ahead and threw it on that balancer. Those are pretty nice. Just self-balanced it. I don't actually know if I needed to adjust it, but went ahead and cleaned all the old grease out of everything and put some new grease on. It was pretty dirty. The guy I bought this from, I'm not sure how much maintenance he had really done on this. I think everything he had gotten done was at the shop, so I am pretty particular about my stuff, so definitely nitpick it. So putting these back on, there's a specific way that the manual says to do it, which I try to do because this thing already death wobbles so bad. So here's the actual method. Basically tighten the right and tighten the axle, loosen the right, and then tighten the left side. And then you put on the brakes, take those to spec, and then you spin the tire and pop the brakes. You're actually supposed to hit the suspension down, I think, which I didn't do. Actually get on it and push the suspension down to seat it. But I don't know, I didn't get too bad death wobbles. And then of course tighten that side back up. And yeah, I guess that's the proper way to do it. I feel like every time I put brakes on this, or new tires on this, the death wobble is just crazy for the first 1,000 miles. Anyhow, here I'm putting on the axle sliders, which I do really like because I dropped this thing so many times and started really scraping up my fenders there. But anyhow, moving to the rear, went ahead and breaking everything loose. So breaking the bead on the rear. Like I said, the rear is everything was harder with the rear. Just a much thicker tire, I don't know if it's thicker, but I know that wall is just much more rigid. Helps to be young when you do this. Definitely helps to be young. When I had started this, I was bound determined not to get my rim all scratched up too, and so that's why I was using those blue little um, what do you call those, rim protectors, but it's not worth it. I'm not gonna lie, it's not worth it. It is so much harder, and honestly, you think about it, you do like, I don't know, 20 tire changes or whatever over the life of your bike, however many you end up doing, and you end up with a super scratched out rim. It kind of looks cool, you know, like it's got life to it, you know, like war scars. So I don't know, I don't really mind. Second time around doing the tire, I didn't even bother with those. I just sent it, because you'll see later in this video it just turned into a disaster. But yeah, pulling the old tube out, like they were just factory tubes, so I'm glad I didn't get a puncture, because it would have went right through those. Those 3mm Motoz tubes are supposed to be a lot better. Right there, I almost sent myself to the hospital. Definitely watch that. Don't be prying with your face right in front of it. I gotta stop doing that. So here is where the time jump happens. I think that was about 3 hours that just skipped ahead. My dad and I were out here trying to get this thing to get on, and if you ever worked with your dad, you know you tend to butt heads a little bit. So he ended up going inside, and I was just bound, determined to get this thing on there. And if there's one thing I know, I am the most stubborn person I know. So I was not gonna let this tire win, but I was just too strong-headed, and I should have realized the zip tie method was just ridiculous. Definitely not worth it. Not worth it at all. So like over the course of these clips here, you're watching like a half hour in between each clip probably. Like this whole process just for the rear tire was 4 to 6 hours, not gonna lie. And I ended up ripping it. I ripped the wall slightly. But I mean, I rode it for 5,000 miles and it was fine, so I surely wasn't gonna take it back off. Throw more baby powder on there. I can't believe I didn't bend my rim, honestly. Right here, you'll hear it rip. Yeah, that sound is actually the tire ripping. But it wasn't super big rip or anything. And yeah, I don't know. I was just so mad at that point. I didn't even care. And then right here, it finally goes on. It was definitely not fun. And baby, that is such a nice sound. Seated fine. And yeah, do not do the zip tie method. That's all I have to say from that. Like, it is not worth it. So, after a good rest, next day I came out and got it balanced and all cleaned up. And then pretty much ready to throw the sprocket on there. I had to get the big boy out for these. They were on there. For the sprocket, I ended up switching to a 44 tooth. I think the OEM is a 42. Yeah. A 42 tooth is the OEM. And so it's supposed to give you a little more torque. So you can use second gear a lot more on the tighter sections of the trail is what I was seeing. I mean, obviously you're going to be more taxed on the highway, so I just really feel it out and see what you think is best for your bike. The rear, as you can see, it really wasn't worn too bad, but it was just kind of sound of mind for the chain for me. But yeah, a lot of people throw the 44 on there, and so that's what I did, and you definitely notice the power a lot more. But I don't know, I mean, if you're going to be on the highway a lot, I don't know if I'd recommend it. I think the RPM difference, you can find it online, it's not much. So I got everything cleaned up and went ahead and threw the, I don't know what you call that, the hub back on there, and then threw on the sprocket. And then I threw on some aftermarket sprocket nuts from Pro Bolt, and those things are sweet looking. They have all kinds of parts for the Afro Twin on there, all kinds of different colors like that, and I think those are actually titanium. So they're expensive though, I'm not gonna lie. I'd like to replace everything on there with that blue. I think it'd look really cool, but I'd have $1,000 just in hardware. So then, getting to the rear tire, went ahead and popped the cover off for the front sprocket and the shift linkage, so that way I could get in there. And then popped the chain off. This one had a C-clip. At least I think you call it a C-clip, whatever. It's just the clip chains. And the one I put on there was a rivet style. And honestly, probably should have gotten the clip style, just because the amount of like trail riding I'm gonna be doing and how much I'm gonna be out in the boondocks, you know. I did buy a rivet tool with this, but it's just that much more that you got to carry with you in your toolkit, because you got to have the whole vise thing. But there's the old chain. You can see how it's like binding like that. It just seemed real rough. I've seen videos of old chains, and I also seen videos of them snapping, and it does not look like a good time, cracking a case or something like that. So there I am, popping off the front sprocket. BMW rider pulling up, thinking he's all cool. At one point I had been using a type of chain wax or a type of chain lube called, I think it's called chain wax actually, and that stuff just builds up like crazy on there, and I really had to put a lot of elbow grease in cleaning all that out of there. I would not recommend using that, but anyhow, cleaned all that stuff up, and then make sure you grease that spindle or that spline, and throw the front sprocket back on. I've seen a lot of posts of people having a lot of wear on those splines there, so definitely grease the crap out of that, because that does not sound fun to replace. And there's a special sprocket out there that is specifically for the twins, as far as I'm aware, and it like clamps the splines in a way to where it'll prevent wear. So I definitely recommend looking into that. If I'd have known about that before I installed this, I probably would have put that on. So I'd look into that. But yeah, cleaned everything up and greased it, and then rolling that rear tire back in. It's like right here I can taste the finish line. But of course I ran into more issues. There's always issues. So then the new chain, ain't that thing pretty? I love that gold on there. Really goes with the rims nicely. Yeah, cleaning up the slider there, which definitely look into replacing that if you got a twin, because mine's basically metal on metal, and I still haven't replaced it because you got to take the whole swing arm off to replace that. I would recommend looking into that. I'm not looking forward to that one. That sounds like a winter job. But yeah, it's not actually metal on metal. It wears down to like a point where the rollers on the chain are rubbing on it, so yeah. Now this chain was supposedly cut to length, and I cut out a big chunk of the video there where I was trying to get the chain on there, and it really seemed like it was going to be oversized. Everything I was looking at, it looked like it was going to be oversized. So I ground a link off, and it ended up being too tight. But I mean, what am I going to do, you know? I ended up just, when I tightened that, it ended up being like the axle was basically farther forward than what it really should have been. Like the wear lines, you know, it was way in front of the wear lines, but I still able to adjust it far enough forward to where everything worked. So yeah, I don't, this is a 126 length chain that it came in this kit, and I probably should have just left it and had the axle sitting a little farther back. But you know, as the chain stretches, I might have ended up having to take a link off anyhow. I don't know. So there's the kit. I believe that's, I forget. The link will be in the description for that kit. I forget what brand it is, but it's actually really nice. So had to use an impact for a lot of it. It comes with a little hand crank, but there's just no way I was gonna be able to crank it. So went ahead and popped all the links off just to drop that one. Popped all the rivets out, and then putting the master link in. And yeah, I definitely watched some videos on putting these chains on if you've never done a chain, which I never have. Only dirt bike chains, which has been a long time. Here's where I made a big mistake. I was trying to crank it by hand, but it just gets so tight you can't really actually smash that rivet down. So I was having to use an impact on that thing. And as you can imagine, it's not really good for it. And right here, I chipped the rivet. I actually cracked it. Kind of like cracked it in half, to be honest. Just the end of it. But I mean, it was fully riveted out halfway, and so I was like, shoot, I'm just gonna send it because I didn't have an extra master link at this point. So yeah, I rode 10,000 miles on it and it's still doing fine. So yeah, went ahead and adjusted the what do you call those, adjusted the length of the chain, and then tightened the axle, and everything was pretty much good. Yeah, not really any issues. Like I said, it's farther forward. I don't know if you can see it very well. Maybe if you zoom in on YouTube, it's actually farther forward than what it should be. But I mean, I was still able to get good chain slack, and everything was good. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and this is how not to change a set of tires. Peace.